The call was made that the Justin Trudeau Liberals won a second term in the federal election. Wexit saw a huge surge in followers, and then they started to mobilize. I have to admit, in the beginning, I supported the movement, and even though I'm not a fan of separation, I felt it was something to be looked at. But then as I started to dig deeper into Wexit, I started to back away. What really solidified this decision for me was when I got an email titled Press Release, Wexit Goes Thermonuclear, Alberta Separation Imminent, and I decided to go through it line by line. It all starts with an announcement that Wexit is pending an official registration as a political party from Elections Canada, and then jumps right into why conditions are prime for Alberta separation. Yes, people are angry, and rightfully so. Alberta has never been treated fairly in Confederation. But as I continued to read, I wasn't angry at Canada. I was irritated at this press release and began having a serious succession of what the duck moments. First reason Wexit lists is that the Conservative Party of Canada will never form government again, and this is due to Liberal voter trends in Ontario. So I went over to 338 Canada, where they list who came in second for the election, and in 4 Ontario ridings, the CPC came in second by a very small margin, but the Liberals came in second in 3 ridings by a very big margin. The CPC actually made some serious gains and brought the Liberals from a majority government down to a minority. So to say that they'll never form government again is pure speculation. Here is where Wexit lost me. They are basing their own predictions of victory on the results of the Reform Party of the 80s and 90s. They figure that they'll elect Wexit MPs in all 104 Western Canadian ridings. Unfamiliar? Maxime Bernier said the same thing about his PPC and they were wiped out. Wexit also doesn't take into account that the Alberta's runner-up was the NDP. Canada is not the same as it was in the 80s and 90s. Where I really said what the duck is when Wexit says they are expecting a mass floor crossing of Conservative MPs to deflect to their side. Do they really think that MPs like Michelle Rempel and Shannon Stubbs are going to run under a separatist banner? Final reason is one big conspiracy theory that Jason Kenney is only the Premier of Alberta as part of this sneaky plan to maintain political reverence and become the Prime Minister of Canada. Since when? Did I miss a Kenney announcement? I'm usually really good at keeping up with those. Now the threatening starts, and I had yet another what the duck moment. If Jason Kenney doesn't do exactly as Wexit says, Wexit will run in the provincial election, outflank the UCP from the political right, and force them to lose the 2023 election. Let's be real here for a minute. Wexit will not win in the Alberta election. If anything, they'll split the vote like in the 2015 election and we'll end up with another NDP government. Yep, that's something we all want, right? The conclusion of the press release links the letter Wexit founder Peter Downing sent to Jason Kenney, as well as a quick outline. But in that outline, I went from what the duck to you've got to be ducking kidding me. Downing points the finger at not just Trudeau, but at Stephen Harper, stating that our former Prime Minister had the same sentiments as Trudeau to phase out our energy sector. Really? Harper championed our energy sector and built 4 major pipelines: the Kinder Morgan Anchor Loop, TransCanada's Keystone, Enbridge's Alberta Clipper, and Enbridge's Line 9 reversal. But because the price of oil cratered, Harper suddenly wanted to phase Alberta energy out? Give me a break. Brexit also wants to deepen economic, diplomatic, and security relations with the United States, essentially making us more dependent on the country that funnels billions of dollars to anti-oil energy groups that want to landlock our oil. So after all of that, I went on to read Peter Downing's letter to Jason Kenney, which reads in a very emotional way to get a reaction out of people. After listing all his reasons for starting this movement, Downing gets going with his insult and threaten Kenney stream of paragraphs. And first he claims that Kenney's listening tour and referendum on equalization are purely symbolic. I mean, what more does Downing want Kenney to do? Yell at the rest of Canada to every media outlet? Storm Parliament Hill and throw a tantrum at Trudeau's feet? Downing may represent a portion of Albertans, but not all of us. And Kenney's job is to listen to all sides, not just Downing's. Downing brings up Kenney, the Prime Minister conspiracy theory, listing exactly why that will never happen. Again, Kenney has never claimed that he wants to be the Prime Minister, but I'm just going to let Downing run with this. He then goes into his whole "you better do as I say right now or I'm going to get you" baloney. How well did that work out for the Alberta Independence Party? How many members did they elect? None. And they're running on a very similar platform. But now that Downing is done threatening and insulting Kenney, he flip-flops and wants Kenney to be the president of Alberta. And my grandma had a saying that you catch more flies with a spoonful of honey than you do with a jar full of vinegar. Downing could probably take a lesson from that. And he goes into not just wanting an Alberta firewall, but an inferno wall. It's not that his ideas are bad, it's that what he's demanding is easier said than done and offers no explanation as to how all these demands would be paid for or implemented. I'm all for an Alberta firewall, and I would really like to see more protections for Alberta, but I'm not willing to be kicked out of my own country. Conclusion of his letter, Downing wants to make it clear that this is not about anger, even though the entire thing seemed pretty angry to me. He then goes into some beautiful utopian imagery that Alberta will be like a city shining on a hill and a light to the nations. No matter how eloquently he wrote this conclusion, everything that came before it was really harsh. How do you expect Kenney to be president and join your cause after threatening insulting him? You don't, and he won't. Overall impression of Wexit is they like to rile people up and get them angry rather than sticking to the facts and being realistic. Wexit may speak for a portion of Albertans, but they don't speak for all Albertans, and they certainly don't speak for this one.